I can't swallow the idea of sending him back into that place that is kind of eating him alive. It gets pretty narrow when you start talking about, do you have a heart? Are you a Christian? Do you have a heart for special needs? There have been days where I was like, I don't want to go down there, but you just do, and you just keep showing up. If you're praying, you're prayerful, and you're surrendering, then he will show you the steps to take.
If you're curious about what is trending in Christian education, you've come to the right place. Hi, I'm Delina Wallace, homeschool mom, microschool leader, and education missionary. And this is Wise and Otherwise, where we are sharing real stories from the front lines of a growing movement in Christian education. Stories of pastors, parents, and everyday believers stepping up in new ways to shape the next generation. From microschools to school boards, we'll explore how the church can lead in education again, creatively, affordably, and in true partnership with families. If you've ever wondered what role you can play, I hope these conversations help you find your next step. It is wise for the church to get involved in leading education. Otherwise, who will? Come on, Christians, let's lead the way and redeem education for the glory of God. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Wise and Otherwise. I'm Delina Wallace, your host, and today I have with me Meghan Melchor with Lionheart Academy. Meghan, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
So Meghan has a beautiful, unique, small, very specialized school where she's serving kids with special needs. And she's in the Wichita area. She's actually between El Dorado and Wichita in Benton. And she just has such a beautiful heart to serve kids who otherwise they're underserved. They have little to no options. And so, Meghan, please tell me a little bit from the beginning about when you started to see a need for a school like this.
Well, from the beginning, let's see. At my beginning in education, I didn't know that, that there were other options. I knew that there were private schools, um, but I didn't know of anything. I wasn't well versed in what those options were. But when I stepped away from the public school, when I had my son, I was a public school teacher before I had kids, and I taught special ed. But then when I stepped away from that and had my son, the Lord just really started very gently and slowly opening my eyes to this need. Um, when I stepped away and I was doing some work at my church, and then I got an email from a mama of a child I had in kindergarten back in my public school days, and he had transitioned into middle school, and he is very bright, I would say above average IQ, but has some social awkwardness that made middle school really, really hard for him. And she just reached out and said, I know you're at home now. I'm a single mom. I I can't swallow the idea of sending him back into that place that is kind of eating him alive. And so, would you be open to him coming to your house since you're at home and doing school with you? And at that time, it was really an answer to prayer. I loved what I was doing at my church. We were also in special needs, but I'm a teacher by trade and by heart. And um, I felt like, oh my gosh, this is the perfect way for me to get to be a mama, be home with my littles, and then do this thing that I love on the side. Um, and so that was a wonderful experience. And then we continued to do the special needs ministry, serve in our special needs ministry at church, which we're still doing. But just through that kind of grapevine and like, hey, this is what I'm doing now, stepping down as the director of that ministry at church and into this more full time. Um, just more and more people in our church community and otherwise were saying, like, I would love to not have to send my kiddo um, there anymore. Things were really stressful for kids. And so it was just like, one mom from our church said, I'm pulling him out of school and I'm going to homeschool him for a semester. And when you're ready, can we send him? And so it just started that way. Like, we'll send our kid, just let us know when.
Oh my goodness.
So it was really cool. It was a cool thing to watch happen. And
It is very cool, and it is very much, I would say, a God thing. I mean, that just, your willingness and that your heart was prepared and eager and that you viewed this as an answer to prayer and not a burden. To me, that feels like such a huge ask. I bet this mom was like so nervous. Like, what if she says no? Like, this is a really big deal to be asking and calling her up saying, can my son come to your house when so you had your little ones by then or
Well, I had my son, and when she called me, it was this spring. My daughter was born in the fall of 2022, so this would have been the spring right before that. I don't know the year, maybe 2022. But yeah, so I just had one baby at the time. I was a 2.5-year-old, and then my daughter was born that first November that he was with me. Um, so
my goodness. Okay, so that is just I mean, you already have a lot on your hands. I mean, you're a new mom, you've got young kids of your own, but there's obviously something that the Lord had burdened you with and placed in your heart that's a really special gift and a really special calling. And I love just your attitude and outlook. It's so clear that you don't view these kids as a burden or anything like that. You don't feel I've been in your school and I have been in your school when it was actually in the basement of your home. And to see your open door, open arms, open heart, like approach with them and your lovingness to them, it has blessed me so much. And I can only imagine how it's been a blessing for the families that you serve and for the moms who've just felt overwhelmed and unsure, with what the current path had been for their kids. And, so I just so appreciate hearing your story.
thank you.
Um, tell me a little bit about how many kiddos you have and what do their needs look like?
Yeah, so right now we have 4 students here, and they are middle school to high school age. That kind of happened organically to last year. We had a little guy who was in first grade. He moved away, and now our group is sort of. I feel like that was also a answer to prayer. Like, where are we supposed to go? And so now we're focusing on that secondary age group, and so we have 4 kids. 3 of those 4 have diagnosis of severe autism, and the third student has just a genetic disorder that leads also to intellectual delays. So, um, most of my students are nonverbal, and we talked a little bit about like the difference in having just language. They have language, but it's not always functional. It's not conversational. So, there's a lot of that, not being able to communicate well or efficiently. Um, Most of them, I think probably the highest grade level academic wise that they're performing at is maybe second or third grade, reading and math skills. So lower IQ, a lot of communication needs, some sensory needs, needs to be mindful of noise levels and um, lights and things like that. Um, but all in all, they're they're sweet kids. Yes.
Wow. And when I was there, the day that I came, you had a couple of people helping out. You had an assistant there. She was laying out things for their crafts, and their activities that they were going to do at the table. And then you had like a therapist come in for one of the students.
Yeah.
And then I think there may have been another, like a fourth adult who came who was specifically maybe with the student full time. Is that right? Because they had
I
high
think
needs.
the day that you came, a friend was coming to help kind of problem solve behaviors,
Mm.
maybe. I can't remember. That was last fall, but there were a number of people. There's a speech therapist that comes. She's not connected to our school, but the Lord has also just she emailed me the summer before last year and said, "Hey, it sounds like you have a lot of my students coming to your school. What if I just came and did speech at your house at school?" And so, yeah, so she comes and now she's coming here also to see those kiddos that we share. And then I think possibly that day, a friend had come, a friend from my public school days that is just really uh, seasoned in dealing with tough behaviors. So she came and observed and helped me figure out and brainstorm some things and put some things in place to help kids. So yeah.
That's great. Well, it seemed like you had plenty of support. Do you feel supported? Do you feel like with tangible needs and like in the day with activities?
This year, I feel better in that area. I still feel like, it's a tricky thing because we need to keep our ratio low of, students to adults because our kids have a lot of needs. And so it has been a little bit tricky to find the right number of people because uh, it gets pretty narrow when you start talking about, do you have a heart? Are you a Christian? Do you have a heart for special needs? Do you have time? Are you okay? Okay,
Yeah.
kind of strange schedule. But the Lord has been good to bless us there too. We have a number of really, really great volunteers um, that come in and help. But yeah, I think that's always an area of need also, though, is just
Sure.
people. Yeah.
Sure.
But we
Yeah.
always have what we need when we need it. So
That's great. That's great. And these students, have all of your students come from public school settings in the past, or were any of the parents trying to homeschool their kids?
actually, we have a straight half and half. We have two kids that came from public school and two kids whose moms are homeschool moms. Um, One who has a sibling in a private school, two homeschool siblings, and then the sibling with special needs that comes here. Um, so yeah, so for them it was um, kind of trying my best. I'm not real sure where to go. We've made this much progress, and then kind of not sure. And also that mamas need a break, and so it was
Mm-hmm.
a bit of that. You take over.
Yeah. Well, you do an amazing job. And when I came, I mean, again, I loved to see how well you loved on these kids. You kept your calm. You had this level of peace and confidence as you were directing them and um, supporting them and consoling them and all of the things. But I imagine that there have been some hard days. It can't be easy.
Yeah.
Um, have you experienced some difficulties, and are there things that you can share that, like, just to let us know, like, it's not all just like a cakewalk? Thanks again for listening to this episode of Wise and Otherwise. We'd like to ask you to take a minute and please rate and review our podcast so that others can learn more about us, and just to continue to show your support for this work that we're doing. It would mean so much. So please, if you're on Spotify or Apple or YouTube, take a minute and give us a good review.
Yeah, no, it's not. One of the things when you're not able to communicate well, I think all of us have times when we just like, oh, I can't find my words, or what I'm trying to get out is not the right thing. So it's frustrating. And our kiddos live with that. And so sometimes that just boils over. And so we do see um, some big behaviors sometimes, but it's always, so yeah, there have been days where it's like, gosh, especially when it was in my house, I'll be honest, where I was like, I don't want to, I don't want to go down there. Uh, but, but you just do, and you just keep showing up. And I will say, one of our students, you probably know from your time in our space, one of our students with the highest behavioral needs has done so well this year. And I think it's that people are showing up. I trust you. You're spending the time um, to meet me where I'm at. And we can pray and we can worship and we can do all those things here freely. And that just makes a huge difference. So there are really, really hard days. Um, but God is sweet to give us fresh, his mercies are new every morning. And I can say, okay, I can try my best to have new mercies every morning too. um,
Yeah.
and so,
Yeah, I love that. So you're not in your home anymore. You have moved to a new location. I'd love to hear how that came about.
yes. Well, we're at the Benton Church, And like you said, it's right between El Dorado and Wichita, right off of Highway 254. Um, and so I live in Benton. This is where we have our home, and we've been here for the past 8 years, I think, 8 or 9. Uh, but when we started Lionheart, I was going to have a new baby in February of our first year. And my sweet friend who was helping me last year, I was like, it's fine. We can just have the baby and I'll have, I'll stay up. You guys go downstairs. And she really encouraged me to start trying to figure out a different space for school. And I had wanted to get involved in our community just a little bit more and just for awareness and have heard great things about the church. So I called their pastor, Justin Lefto, and I think I emailed first and I just said, we're here. This is what we're doing. I'd love a connection with a church. We're a Christian school and we don't have that yet. We're just by ourselves. And so Justin said, yeah, whatever you need. And he brought over one of the church members, a gal named Dana, and they sat down with my husband and I, and we kind of gave them our whole spiel. And Justin was just like, tell me what you need. And I said, okay, we need a space in February. And he said, okay. And yeah, move in and charged us very little for rent and then asked us to stay this year. And we're here rent free this year, which is amazing. And
Wow.
it's just been such a blessing to be in this space. Our kids feel that, our students, I feel that, my own kids feel that.
Yeah, that is so huge. That is so huge. What a difference it makes to feel that you have support from a local church and a local pastor who gets behind you in this and supports you financially by not
Yeah.
charging you rent for the ministry that you're doing. I love to hear that. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Do any of the students attend that church?
No, none of the students attend. My kids come here for VBS
Okay.
and they go to our home church too, and we do Awanas here.
Okay.
But yeah, we don't have any of our students going to the Benton Church right now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just so admire your pastor's willingness to
Yes.
support you guys and kind of take you under their wings and like say, hey, we've got the space. It's one of those things, it's always such a shame when a church has this beautiful building and they have classroom space and all this. And Monday through Friday, it's just not being used. It's not being utilized. So when pastors recognize that they have this amazing gift, it really is a gift to be able to share their space with you.
Yeah.
I love to hear that.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna share, I think he wouldn't mind, but Justin, when he met with me that November, he shared with me he had through someone his son was working with, he had met a young man with cerebral palsy, and that was in September. And that man just asked him to his face, "What are you doing for the special needs community at your church?" And Justin said it really was convicting when he had to say, we're not doing anything. And not that Justin hadn't already had that heart, but it was just a clear, like, here it is. And then we came in November. So I really feel like the Lord was working those two things together. And it just was cool. And when he told me that, I was like, oh my gosh, thank you, Lord, for putting that on his heart, putting us together.
I love it.
So
I love it. So, I mean, one of the points of the show, Wise and Otherwise, and Hero, and just highlighting school founders who are Christians is like to really share big picture what the Lord is doing. Because, I mean, if people didn't know like your little situation, which is making a huge impact, then they don't get the clear picture. Like none of us have the big full picture of what God's doing here on this earth or here in Kansas or in the Wichita area, but it's something huge. It's something really special. And I go back to really feeling like we named our ministry Heartland Education Reformation Organization. And I feel like there's something significant about our location, like where we're at geographically in the United States. We're in the heart of America. And if the Lord is doing something and stirring the hearts of his people and making these connections between educators and families in need and educators and pastors who want to serve. Maybe there's like something to this. I really feel like there's something to this that we can model for others, and to just see that this is a partnership and it's so beautiful. It's like that Ephesians 5, the work of all of the parts of the body of Christ, working together. Um, so it's so exciting to get to see what's happening right there in Benton. Um, let's see. So how are you doing with doing it all? I mean, how many days a week are you guys in school, and how does this work being a young mom still and having your family?
Um, it has been an adjustment in that regard, but I still feel like I feel this year there's more balance of that teacher mom life. Last year I felt a little bit like one blended into the other, especially being in my home. Like, okay, I'm a mom. And my two littles. At that time, I just had the two. My oldest started kindergarten, but they were both kind of in the space too with us, and most days, and that was really hard. Uh, but this year, having moved to the Benton Church has helped that balance tremendously. We went last year. We were 4 days a week. This year, we went down to 3 days. At first, because of the space, it was not going to be available on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now it is, and we might change that schedule a little bit, but the 3 days a week has been helpful for me in finding a balance with my own kids who don't come to school here. And then also parents have enjoyed it too. So we meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday right now from 8:30 to 3 o'clock. Um,
Okay. So then does that require do families need to have their own it sounds like they need to make their own arrangements on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So does that only work for homeschooling moms right now or
So, yes, there that is has actually been in discussion of, like, what if somebody else wants to come and they have 2 working spouses or 2, mom and dad both work. Um, right now, our so 2 of our moms homeschool, and the other 2, one stays home. Actually, the other 2 also both are at home, and so they do have that ability to transport. We have a couple of moms that carpool because, just their situation and it's hard to get.
Yeah.
Benton is not super centrally located for those in Wichita, but uh, they come. And so, yeah, it does make it a little tricky though.
Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, again, I think you are doing what works best for you and these families you serve
Mhm.
and your own family. And so, okay, this is something I'd really love to explore. Do
Yeah.
you feel like these types of schools, these like creative Christian learning environments that serve special needs kids and
Mhm.
high needs kids, do you feel like this is something that others can do? And do you feel like you've kind of like caught on to something that should really just take off? And what would that look like for someone to do something similar?
Yeah, my prayer is that yes, others can do it. I'm praying that the Lord puts it on more hearts to do this. Because I told you a little bit before that there's no Christian option um, for a child with special needs um, at all. So I think the Catholic schools are good about taking kiddos in, but um, yeah. So yes, I would say anybody can do it. It's hard, and it is hard to step into if you don't sort of have a specialized or experience in some way. But I'm confident that the Lord will put it on enough hearts that there will be people who are
Right.
ready to do it. I didn't think, I had struggled a lot with that whole sort of imposter syndrome at the beginning of this. Like, who am I to start a school, and who's going to want to come to my school and working with their kids? But that wasn't from the Lord. And when I recognized that the Lord is moving, kind of in spite of my, you know, trepidation, I guess.
Yeah. Insecurities, maybe a little bit of
Yeah.
sure.
Um, but I think he would do that. He will do that for others too.
Yeah.
I think we can have more of these. I pray that we can.
Yes. So I've had several ladies reach out to me and they're just at the really young, early stage, and also feeling like maybe they've served in a public school setting or they were working with a private school and the private school had to turn certain kids away and families away because they couldn't serve them and they're just burdened for these students. And so I know some like maybe two or three other ladies in the area who've been like, okay, what can we do about this? Um, so I love the creativity. I love when again the body of Christ comes together to problem solve and to meet each other's needs. And I think you sharing your story can inspire others who can recognize like it's a big ask, but for those who are called to it, like the Lord provides and he gives you everything that you need. He meets your needs for you and your family and brings the skilled people alongside you to support you, the therapist or the pastor or the location or whatever it would be. So what would you say to those who might feel called towards this?
Yeah, I would say that if you're feeling called, then there's God will bless you walking in obedience. Um, there was a lot of times a friend and I just prayed, like, what is God asking? She was in a different school, but what is God asking us to do? And he just, if you're praying, you're prayerful and you're surrendering, then he will show you the steps to take. For me, it was the Herzog Foundation that was brought up sort of in a meeting, unrelated, sort of related, but hey, have you heard of Herzog? They provide free training, for founders. So I was like, okay, did that. Then I felt like, okay, I'm a little bit more equipped. And then I met you and you've been such an encouragement and Hero's been such an encouragement. And so yeah, I just think it comes down to if your heart is being tugged, you need to take that seriously as a call from the Lord, and then you pray, you surrender, and He's faithful. He's faithful to equip you where He's called you to go. So He's not gonna call you there and then say, "Figure it out." You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a good word of encouragement. Megan, if people wanted to learn more about your school or get in touch with you, do you feel like would you be willing to answer questions and whether it's parents who are looking for options or others who might be exploring what it would look like for them to start a similar school, can they come to you? Do you have a website?
I do. Our website's kind of long, but it's Lionheart Academy, Kansas, one word, .com. Um, and yeah, my email address is on that website. My phone number's on the website. We also have a Facebook page that they can find us on Facebook with my contact information there or a Facebook message, I guess. Or yeah, and I'll try my best to answer questions and um, emails, phone calls. Yeah.
That's so great. Okay. Well, thank you, Megan. You're such a busy lady. You have a full plate, you have multiple plates, and you're spinning, but the Lord has obviously been with you and given you everything that you need to continue in this ministry. So I pray blessings on you and the kiddos that you serve and the families that are so blessed to have found you, and blessings on the Benton Church and the pastor there. So I love seeing it. What a beautiful example of the body of Christ working together to serve our special needs kids.
Yes, it's great. Thank you for having me and inviting me on your show. And thank you for Hero and the ways that you're supporting all of us.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in, and we will see you next time.